Hi, I'm Short, and in this video I'm going to show you how to replace the key housing of a Volkswagen, Seat or Škoda, the car key. This key was used in pretty much all models that appeared from around 2006 up to 2016. So it's quite common in the Volkswagen segment. For this replacement service, we need at least a flathead screwdriver and some kind of small pliers. It usually doesn't matter much, but the narrower the tips of the pliers, the better. And it goes as follows. When we flip the key open, we see a groove here, and we also see a small metal pin here. The pin prevents the two halves of the key from coming apart, but we can't easily remove it. To open the key housing, we also have to break it a little. To do this, we place the two tips of the pliers into the opening and move the arms apart. So I put him in, I pull them apart. And at that moment, you can see the housing open. The circuit board is never damaged in this process, but what you do see here is that the pin has broken through the plastic. So this housing can't be reused, but of course we have a new housing ready for that. Now I'll set all the parts aside for a moment. And here I have the new key housing. It's important to note that the bag contains not only the housing, but also that metal pin we just talked about. We'll need that in a moment, because otherwise the key won't stay in place properly. So I'll set that aside for now. And this housing is even easier to open since there isn't a pin in it yet. So in the same way, I insert something in between here, move the halves apart from each other, and again, set all the parts aside. The first thing we want to transfer is the circuit board. We can actually remove the circuit board quite easily by pressing the buttons on the back a little. See if it loosens a bit, and then grab the battery holder and take it out. Take a good look. Sometimes the yellow protective layer of the push button sticks to the key. This happens because the key is often exposed to heat and cold, and over time it starts to stick a bit. If you notice this, just use tweezers to put it back in place. Then everything will work properly. If you leave it like that, the push button might stop working. So make sure you transfer that over. Now we'll transfer this whole part into the new casing. It only fits in one way. And then we'll take a look at the other side. There's still a battery here. So we'll remove the battery holder and take out the battery. We'll put the battery into the key at the very end. We're talking about a CR2032 battery here, and if it's been in use for a while, I would actually recommend just replacing it right away. So now we have the following components. We have the entire key mechanism here, the key blade, plus the flip mechanism itself, all of it included in its entirety as well. We have the top part of the casing, the bottom part, and the battery. Well, for the key blade, I would always recommend the following. You can transfer it yourself, or you can go to a locksmith to have it cut, and I often prefer that second option myself. The reason for this is as follows. If you want to transfer it yourself, then you need to deal with those two retaining pins you see. You have to tap out those little pins with a small nail. When you do that, the two halves of the key mechanism will come apart. That way you can swap them and put it back together. It sounds very easy, but in practice it can actually be quite a challenge. That's why I often say just spend 10 or 15 euros at a locksmith and they'll cut it for you, which usually saves you a lot of trouble. So I'll put this key aside for now. Let's set it aside for a moment and get started with this one. Now, what we're going to do here is as follows. The key mechanism consists of three parts. We have the key blade, we have the button that you press to make it flip open, and we have a spring here. First, we place this button into the flip mechanism, and you might have already noticed it has three little dots here that line up exactly with the notches we see here. So we place it in position, and if all goes well, it should fit right through. You can also see it coming out the back. Next, we put the spring in and twist it around a bit until it stays in place and can't move. At the top of the spring, there's a small thin pin sticking out. And what we do is place the spring with the open side on top of the black plastic pin of the key housing, and we make sure that the pin from the coil spring points to the side. So we place this right on top here. We make sure the whole thing points to the side, and while pressing it down, we turn it 360 degrees around. At this point, the tension is set on the key, so that when we press the button here, it will want to spring open. Next, we close the two halves. So I'll place this on top here. You can now immediately check if it springs open properly. Then we open the battery cover. Place the battery in its position. The easiest way to do this is as follows. The text should always face upwards, otherwise it won't work. And we first place it towards the key. Insert the blade and then press it down on the other side. Once that's done and everything is in place, we carefully close the battery cover, making sure it is secure, and only need to insert the pin. Place the pin in its position, and I personally always prefer to use a small screwdriver to press it in here. Make sure it doesn't stick out at all anymore. If it still sticks out, the key blade might not be able to close properly in the housing. Make sure it goes all the way down, and at that point you'll have a working key again. Hopefully everything went well with transferring your key housing. If you didn't quite manage to figure it out, you'll find our contact information in the description below this video, or you can leave a comment under this video and I'll be happy to help you further. Success!